So this is part two. This is about the background of the code. So development started, and we knew that if we were going to undertake this project and we wanted to make it modular, because the graph part actually wasn't planned at the beginning. We added that on later because we thought, we need a little bit more work to add into this project. And we started with the idea that we wanted a code that was easy to read and easy to debug. And the way we do that is make a main script that's really easy to read. And if you look at this main script actually doesn't have many lines of code. Not too many. A lot of it is, there's more comments than there is code. There's actually not too many lines of code. And the way that we're able to do this is that we have different functions that do things for us. And functions that are called constantly, you might as well make them a function. So we have currency to number. This turns, okay, well, before we go over these numbers, we came up with a key. So I'm going to show that key right now. And we came up with this all together and we put it in the main code. And we have the continent key. North America, that's corresponds to the number 1. South America, that's number 2. So on, so on. All these continents have a number associated with them, and with currencies as well. All the currencies have a number associated with them. The key is actually not finished here. I don't know why that happened, but sequestration captures 1, storage 2, 3 is both. So you go to continent to number, let's say, and it shows that it takes a string, it outputs a number. And the way it does this is with kind of a cumbersome amount of if and else if statements. But it's not that bad. It's not too hard to read. It's pretty easy to see that North America's 1, South America's 2, so on. Same thing with type to number. They're actually pretty much all the same as far as the code itself. It looks very similar. It takes a string, outputs a number. Now the way these are used is when we process the list. We need to process the list in our own way. So we use XLS read. We read each individual column that we need, and we extract the text of the cost currency. The cost currency is in many different strings. There'll be Chinese yuan or Japanese excuse me, Japanese, let's see, what is the Japanese currency? Japanese yen, all these things, they're not numbers, and it's really hard for a computer to read numbers. It's kind of a pain to keep reading strings, so we just organize them into numbers immediately. So we would take this, we'd extract the text of that. We'd also extract the cost, and this is just one long, let's see if we can get temp const. So it's just one long, one long column. It's just columns of numbers that just correspond to the type of currency or continent. In this case, it was continent. And then we take those and we convert them. We convert the currency using the currency to number right here. Currency to number. We convert the currency type into a number. We convert the sequestration type into a number using type to number. We convert the continent to a number. This just makes it so much easier to read. It just, it's right there. It makes it really easy to debug for us. That's why I picked to do it that way. And then one final conversion that we have is we have US dollars. This function right here, it takes two things. It takes the, let's see, where is US dollars? It takes the currency and it takes the value of the currency. So it takes a number and a string. Sorry, not a number and a string, an integer and a number. And depending on what type of currency it is, it has a different currency conversion rate right here. All these are different. They're for the different currencies. So it converts them all into US dollars, so we can look at this as a cost in US dollars, because otherwise you have no idea how much something costs. They're different numbers. We have to make them all the same number. So we have that. We converted them all to numbers that we have the key to, and we all converted them all to US dollars currency. We assemble the list into one list, the pre-trunk list. Oops, sorry about that, y'all. Let me just disable. Okay. Take the list. We just have one list, pre-trunk list. It's pre-truncated list. It's just a list with numbers. It has the type of sequestration, and it has the continent in the other. It just makes it so much easier for us. We don't have to go through a bunch of useless columns. All right, we take that. We then are ready to ask the user. We ask the user, what do they want? You know, North America, sequestration type, average cost. This is done all before the user, because, you know, what's the point of just like telling the user we're ready when we're not ready? We can do all that stuff in advance. Then we use process list. So proc list, it creates lower and upper range right here. Creates the lower and upper range using the range input. The range is a 20, which means 20%. It creates the lower and upper range. It checks with a for loop right here. As you can see, this for loop. Every time it checks, is the cost in the range, is the sequestration type and the continent equal to what the user wants. And if it is, it adds it to this list. And the list, it just is a number. It just is a number. It corresponds to the index that the relevant entry is at. And if it doesn't find anything, it just returns an empty list right here. It returns this number list. And this empty list, the main, if it's an empty list, the main script reads it, tells the user, oh, well, this list was empty. Here is the graph. And then, okay, the graph function is just one line, if you don't count the fact that it's a function. And then we have the graph function. So the way the graph function works is it takes the list, the process list and the graph function both take the same inputs. They take the list, the post truncated list. Sorry, this is the pre-truncated list. This is just the 3 columns with the cost, currency, type, continent. No, sorry, cost in US dollars, continent, and then type in our little number system. And then it takes the user's sequestration type, it takes the user's cost, it takes the user's the user doesn't set the range, we set the range at 20%. It takes the range of 20%, so we can change it. You know, we can change it if the user, if the client would like it. And then we take the continent, so we can, you know, look at what the graph projects takes the exact same stuff, not in the same order, but it does take the same stuff. And what the graph projects does is it actually creates a style for every single point. It runs a for loop, and every I in the for loop, every loop is actually for one point. So it looks, is it in the continent that the user selected, then it's black. You know, if it's 0, it's a white, because we don't know the cost, so we just might as well just not even appear. Else, it's in the continent key. So the continent key corresponds, it's right up here, and has colors for every continent. So North America, blue. South America, yellow. Europe, magenta, so on, so on. It's all here. And what it does is it takes the continent key, the corresponding continent key, and the corresponding sequence key, and it uses a what's it called? A string cat. It concatenates 2 strings, just 2 little letters, to create a style. So every one of them has a unique style depending on what kind of continent it is, whether it's the user's continent, whether it's the user's sequestration, which type of sequestration type it is. And the reason we use this is an X is for capture, a storage is for plus. And we thought an asterisk is kind of like a plus on top of a cross, you know? It's kind of like more than just that, you know? It's kind of them on top of each other, so it just kind of works out that, you know, both is an asterisk. It just makes sense, because I don't know how to describe it, but it just makes sense. And it creates this, it plots the range as a line to show the user where it is, and, you know, they can zoom in and out, and everything is plotted on a log scale so that, you know, everything can be seen instead of just this complete mess on the bottom, which a linear scale would have shown. But, you know, that's just how money is. But yeah, that's just all these work together, you know, to create our project. Yeah. Let's do it one more time. North America, storage, 14, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Here it is, right here. There's the range. Zoom in. Thank you. Thank you so much for watching.